Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever and whenever you are tuning into this. My name is Stephen English. If you don't know me, well, it's nice to meet you. Part of the reason, well, let's say the main reason I'm on today is because I know that for, based on every company that I've worked at, we are getting into the review season. If you're in that review season already, if you've already gotten notification that, hey, you need to fill out your annual review, there's normally like a self evaluation that is done ahead of the boss giving you your evaluation. If you're out there and you are about to go through your review season, please comment in the chat, reviews, whatever you got, whatever the appropriate word might be. I think reviews, that's fine. So today I'm talking about how to self promote, especially during the review season. And this is the time when the you're offered a platform. You're offered a platform to talk kindly, not just kindly, talk very well of yourself, to look at your accomplishments and bedazzle them, to look at your accomplishments and highlight the impact in a way that puts you in the most favorable light. This video today is inspired by, let's see if I can do it. Yes, this guy, this guy, Gucci Man. So, Gucci Man, I saw this meme a long time ago. I said, oh, this is too cool. I promoted myself. That's right. We do need to promote ourselves. And so many quiet leaders look at it as bragging, or they look at it in a way that it's disingenuous, that they feel that they're, lying in some way. And these are all just limiting beliefs, all limiting beliefs. This this live today, this recording was also inspired by a little book that I was listening to on Blinkist, which I'll tell you about near the end. It's called Show Your Work 10 Ways to Share Your Creativity and Get Discovered. You may say, well, this isn't about creatives. Well, it kind of is. And we'll talk through that here in a minute. The main problem when it comes to quiet, humble leaders during the review season is not that they don't actually have the accomplishments. It's not that they don't have the details of the accomplishments ready at hand somewhere to share. It's not that they don't have the information. It's really they're thinking about it. And here's a quote that I love. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. And many, many quiet leaders have the attitude, like I said before, the this thought that, well, it's bragging and I don't want to be lying. And maybe even something like, well, I worked on this team and my work was contributing to this team, and that team had an accomplishment, but it's not really mine. I mean, my boss needs to take credit for that because they led that team, or maybe the project manager needs to take credit for it because they led that team. And all of these just get in the way of you getting that next promotion, getting that salary bump, getting rated. I don't know your system at your company. Maybe it's a 1 through 5, with 1 being you are literally out the door, you already got fired, 2 being you're on a performance improvement plan, 3 being you're in the middle of the distribution. Maybe there's maybe 60, 70 something percent of the people are supposed to be in that part of the distribution. Then a 4 rated employee, it's your, top 20%. And then your 5 rated employee is your top 5%. And where your boss may see you as a 3 or 4 rated employee, if you come along with this great self appraisal, so in other words, the system opens up, whatever your appraisal system is at your company, the system opens up and you tell a great story, you are more likely to be that 4 rated employee. Or if you are on the cusp between the 4 and the 5, then now you're more likely to be a 5 rated employee. I know when I was a manager, I had some team members who would take their self appraisal and simply take projects that they thought, let's say, for example, the self appraisal system was based upon core competencies, which is really common, right? So there's some core competencies that the organization wants for each member. Maybe there's 10 core competencies, and they simply take a bunch of projects or activities and they drop them in to those core competencies. I had a team member that would do that. And then there's other people who tell a story and they show the impact. And maybe they go a little bit out on the limb there with saying, hey, my work strongly contributed to, or I was responsible for, or what have you. And maybe to them, it's kind of like, it's a bit of a reach. I'll tell you what would Alfred Adler say? Alfred Adler would say the chief danger in life is that you take too many precautions. So those quiet leaders out there who are holding back a little bit, they're, just the facts, ma'am. They're holding back a little bit. Their chief danger in life is that they're taking too many precautions. So if you're that quiet leader, the whole point of today's video is that you can advocate. I love that. Thank you for that word there, Ray. You can advocate for yourself in your review process in such a way that you are more likely to end up in that next ranking bucket. You're more likely to be promoted. You're more likely to get the reserve stock units. You're more likely to get whatever that bonus that is variable from your management, all because you take some chances here, right? You stop taking too many precautions. Love that quote from Alfred Adler. What is it that's really keeping you from doing this? And I alluded to it earlier, but it is your limiting beliefs. It is that belief that things like, oh, let's say, for example, here, if I can't do it perfectly, for example, if I can't perfectly frame up all my accomplishments, then what's the point of doing it? Or maybe you've got some victim mindset that it doesn't matter what I do, no matter what the management in this group, they don't look at me favorably, and whatever it might be. Well, I can't know what your limiting beliefs are. I can't know what thoughts are getting in the way for you. So I do have a tool for you I want to share with you. And this is just showing all the 9 different saboteurs. I'm going to put in the comments, I'm going to put the assessment that you can take. And when you look at when you look at this assessment and you look at these saboteurs, they're pointing you toward the limiting beliefs that may be getting in the way. Because what happens is these show up: the avoider, the victim, hyper rational, hyper vigilant, etc. I won't read all 9 of them off. They show up when you're stressed. And when you look at that appraisal system and you think about the review, you naturally get stressed. You naturally get stressed. I don't know of a single person in the world who says, oh my goodness, the appraisal system's open, I'm so excited. Well, I want to get you to the point where you're so excited. Maybe you're going to be so excited next year. This year might be a little bit of a slog, but everything that I'm going to tell you about right now is going to help you get ready for that. So, like I said, number 1, go find out what are your limiting beliefs through taking this assessment, this saboteur assessment. I'm going to I'll drop the link here in the comments. Some of the things that you can do. I want to read through some of these. So create that brag file. Speak to your coworkers. Look through your email systems, your ticket systems, your collaboration sites. If you use Confluence, if you use SharePoint, whatever it is, and look for the stuff that you've done this year. So if you're kind of sitting there going, I don't know what the heck I did this year, then first go make an inventory. Go make an inventory. And when you talk to your coworkers, you talk to your, let's say, stakeholders, maybe your internal customers, go have a chat with them. Ask them something like, hey, what were the top 3 things I did working with you this year that made the most impact for you? You might be surprised. You might be surprised. Maybe you churn out a ton of work and you simply don't know what has had the most impact. And then get really curious when they say, oh, yeah, this, and this. These were the things. And don't stop there. Tell me, what was it that made an impact? Did it impact cost? Did it impact productivity? Did it impact quality? And if so, if each of them, what was the measure? What was the numerical value of that? Because when you put all of this stuff in your appraisal system, you want to justify your value in some way. I know that sounds, oh, justify. I shouldn't have to justify myself. I already have this job. Of course, you've got this job. But we're talking about the next level here. And you almost need to look at the appraisal cycle, the evaluation cycle, and the appraisal cycle as like a job interview. You're interviewing for the next job in your company. So don't go into it passively. Go into it very actively, proactively, in fact. And at this point, you've got some runway. That's why I'm here on this video today, is that you can go and take this opportunity, this time between now and whenever you have to hit that submit button. And if I recall correctly from my corporate days, yeah, it's somewhere around the winter holiday time. Uh, but you got time. You got time. You got to do this. You really need to do this. And I know that those of you who are a little quiet, you don't like to self promote, but just recognize that that way of thinking is keeping you stuck. It is keeping you stuck. So another way of framing this up, and I'll take this full screen if you want to. Like I said, this will be. Well, this is recorded, so you can come and watch this again. Here, I'll make this full screen. Is take whatever that accomplishment was and break it down into the STAR framework. So, for example, let's imagine that you created a monitoring system, and that monitoring system leveraged your skill of writing Python. Don't just write, oh, created, manufacturing monitoring system. No, no, no. Break it down. Situation. What happened? Why did it need to be addressed? Well, we created that monitoring system for the fact that we were having scrap in our area or we were having yield loss, and we knew what steps we needed to monitor. What was the specific problem, challenge, or action to be done? The task. What did you actually do to address the challenge? Take the specific steps, write it out. Now, you may not put all of that information in your appraisal system, but certainly you want to take a little bit of each of these. And you can do this in 2 sentences. This doesn't have to be super long, even though I've generated a lot of questions. These are just more to evoke. How can you describe it? How can you quantify it? What was the result? This is often used for interviews, and you can use the same framework for the evaluation and promotion cycle. And I really tell you this because I know as a manager. So I was in leadership so of the 22 years that I was in the semiconductor industry, I was in leadership for 17 of those. Then I was an individual contributor for some of those other years, off and on. And when I had employees who took this time, and I'm not going to name names, but I can tell you some people they're still into my network, wonderful people who would take the time of putting all this stuff together. Boy, it made it a lot easier for me as a manager to make the case for them to get promoted. Help me help you. And I know that your manager won't say that to you, but let me speak to you as I am your manager. Just let me step into that role for a moment. Let me help you. Help me help you. Help me help you by getting this clarity, because I don't have the energy to go through all of my employees and create STAR framework for everything that they've done so that then I can go to the director or the vice president or the president or the C-suite and say, hey, this person is a really rock star, and look at all the amazing things they've done, and that's why I'm pushing for them to be promoted. So help me help you. Let me say here, for the quiet leaders, your superpower is preparation. Start now. The process itself, the process that you did, the process you took to get to that product is almost as important. I would say it's probably even more important in some regards than the final product, because in the process, your management can recognize those strengths that you have, those skills that you have that can be utilized in other ways. That you can use those in other projects. You can use those for other opportunities that are coming into the department. So if they can see the process and they can know about the process, and not in gory detail, but if they understand these are some of the skills that I leveraged along the way in order to make this product happen, now they can see, oh, well, they can train other people. So this person is a rock star in XYZ. They can go train other people on that. Or this is something that they can, like I said, they could take it and move it over to another project. Now, I'll finish with this idea here. The story behind the work is definitely important, and our perception of things is influenced by what we know about things. In that book that I mentioned earlier, I'll bring it up here. In this book, they were talking about how if I showed you two pieces of art, they looked identical, relatively identical, and I told you one of them was uh, by a famous Dutch painter in the 1800s, and the other one was a copy. You might, at that point, be able to then go and look at the paintings and perceive, okay, I think this one's the copy. So the story is just as important. If I said that one that was from the 1800s, that person was, super famous, and their art is in national galleries all around the world, then and maybe even talked about the process, the painstaking process, maybe how, maybe they made certain parts of the paint themselves, and whatever, studied this or that in order to make that piece of art. Then you'd look at that and go, wow, it's even higher quality. You may not be thinking it at a conscious level, but your subconscious level, you'd be thinking, wow, this is so high quality. So what is it you're going to do? What is it? Did you just waste what is this, 17 minutes and 48 seconds of your life that you'll never get back, assuming you watch this entire video? What is it you're actually going to do? What's a takeaway for you? Are you going to open up your email system and look at all those sent emails, if that's the way you send your output, your product of your work, and identify those major projects? Are you going to go sit with a stakeholder, an internal customer in your organization, and ask them that question? Hey, what were the three most impactful things I did for you in the last year? What were the three most impactful projects? What is it you're going to do? So please throw that in the chat. I would love to see, for those of you who are about to embark on this journey with your annual review. Yeah, put something in there in the chat, or send me a message if that's something that you don't want to have your coworkers see what you're going to do. That's fine too, but do something. And if your cycle at your company is such that maybe in April or May you're doing this, well, get well ahead of it. Get well ahead of it. Remember I said create that brag file? I've had some clients who, that was at the beginning of our coaching work, they created that, and every week they would update that brag file, and that brag file would contain, okay, this is a major accomplishment, this was the impact of the organization, this is why I did it, et cetera, et cetera. Just like I put with that star. Comments in the chat. Thank you, Ray, for engaging here. I appreciate you. And those of you who do watch this, in replay, type #replay. I'm going to put two things in the comments here, which is one, the saboteur assessment, and two, I have a either 20 or 25% off for this system that I talked about with this book. Let me just briefly mention that. This book came from a system I use called Blinkist. It's a micro learning platform. Think of Audible but instead of it being the entire book, it's the cliff notes. So in 20 minutes, I can listen to the most important portions of a book. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat. I love it. It's the top of my learning funnel. And by learning funnel, what I mean by that is I go out, if somebody says to me, "Oh, have you ever read this book?" I go over to that system. I listen to it. If I like it, then maybe I'll buy it on Audible or I'll buy it as a physical book. But that's the top of my funnel. And it's a really, really cool thing. Great for conversations, great for creating content here on LinkedIn and other social platforms like Facebook and such. Anyhow, that's all I got. Hope you have an awesome Monday. And if you have any questions, please, please feel free to send me a message. Take care.